Welcome everyone to the second of our public YOPP online conference. I hope you can hear me well. I'm really happy to see you attending, even though we had to unfortunately postpone the last meeting due to some other pressing duties. So before we start again with the meeting, I would like to briefly let you know about how the GoToWebinar works. So as I said, I hope everyone can hear well. If not, please drop me a line in the chat field below. And I also hope everyone can see already Thomas's shared screen with the presentation. If not, please also use the chat window below in the GoToWebinar window and drop a line either to Winfried or to me, and then we see how we can fix the problem. So for the first part of the meeting, Thomas Jung, who is the chair of the Year of Polar Prediction Steering Group, will provide an update of recent activities and developments regarding the Year of Polar Prediction. And after Thomas has finished his presentation, you can ask questions. For doing so, you can either raise your hand, which you actually do by clicking on the hand icon, which hopefully everyone can see. And then we will unmute you, so you'll be able to speak out your question. Another option to ask a question or a comment on certain topics is by using the question box below in the GoToWebinar window. Also, I would like to point out that we are recording this meeting, so it will be available later from our website and our YouTube channel to be listened to. So for those of you new to the Year of Polar Prediction Initiative, I would like to briefly introduce Thomas Jung. So Thomas is professor for physics of the climate system at the University of Bremen, and he also leads the climate dynamics section at the Alfred Wegener Institute, which is the German Polar Research Institute. And as I already mentioned, Thomas is chairing the PPP steering group to plan and coordinate the Year of Polar Prediction. So welcome, Thomas, and the stage is yours now.
Okay, thank you very much, and a very warm welcome from my side as well. As Kirstin mentioned, that's the second online discussion, and there will be 3 parts to it. The first part will be very brief. It's just a reminder what the Year of Polar Prediction is about, just in case you are a newcomer, but then I will also direct you to a website where you can get further information. Then I think also a shortish part, which is an update on recent developments. And then I think most of the time really would like to spend on, discussing with you, trying to answer your questions or picking up some suggestions for further developing the Year of Polar Prediction. Okay, so reminder briefly, the mission statement: enable a significant improvement in environmental prediction capabilities for the polar regions and beyond. And then it comes by doing what? By coordinating a period of intensive observing, modeling, prediction, verification, user engagement, and education activities. And I think important points here are, for example, environmental prediction capabilities. So it's not just weather or atmospheric prediction, but it's a coupled system in the polar regions. And this polar regions and beyond is also quite critical, because we expect that improvements in the polar regions will also be of benefit for lower latitudes. So very introductory material, much more you can find on this website, polarprediction.net, that I guess most of you will know. Just a brief timeline: we did have the preparation phase, which ended in May this year. We are now in the midst of in the YOPP core phase, which will be running for 2 years. And we will be having some observational activities, these special observing periods, SOPs, field campaigns, satellite data. There will be lots of modeling activities, model experiments, forecast experiments, but also data assimilation activities. There will be research into the use and value of forecasts. There will be intensive verification effort, and there will be a summer school early next year. And then there's a consolidation phase, in order to make a synthesis and publish results, make recommendations, and so forth. But that's not necessarily the subject of today's presentation. But we would like to focus more here on the YOPP core period, YOPP core phase, and what's lying immediately ahead of us. So this YOPP core phase, there's one, which is one for the Arctic, and I will be starting with this one here. Just a reminder, timeline, preparation phase, YOPP core phase here started in the mid-2017, and then the YOPP consolidation phase. And we did have the launch of this core phase in May this year at WMO. And then we have these core modeling and prediction activities, and I will be coming back to this. I mean, very valuable data sets will be provided by operational centers to the community. Okay, there will be special observing periods, these SOPs in the Arctic, and the first one running will be this winter, from 1st of February to the 31st of March, and then there will be a second one this year. That will be the summer one, which will start on the 1st of July and then running for a period of 3 months. Okay, and then we have also extensive buoy coverage. So there are plans now in January to put out additional buoys, for example, in the eastern part of the Arctic, and then there are plans to put more out before the summer season as well. Then there are field campaigns, which are more targeting. They're different from the special observing periods. The special observing periods are really there to help us design the observing system for getting very good initial conditions for forecasts, whereas these field campaigns are more for process understanding, and therefore also improving models and the representation of processes in models. And then we have also some extra and experimental modeling activities, and hopefully there will be also some additional satellite data. As many of you know, there's this MOSAiC plans for the drifting station, and to make a long story short, I mean, at the moment we are planning to have a third SOP modeling activity flanking this MOSAiC activity. But I mean, that's something that needs to be developed. But I think most of the operational centers who are engaging in this during this core phase, I mean, they're actually quite keen on helping also with contributing to MOSAiC. And then very briefly in the Antarctic, I mean, very similar setup, with these different elements, modeling, SOPs, field campaigns, and so forth. But here it's important to say that the SOP will start next summer season, so it will start on the 1st of November 2018 next year, and then run for a few months. And it has to be said, when it comes to the planning, there's a planning activity in the Arctic, and there's sort of a separate group in the Antarctic, and you will find this out, when I talk about upcoming workshops for the Antarctic. So very briefly about the Antarctic. So that is a snapshot from our Google layer here, Google Earth layer, and what you see is here a number of radio sonde launches here indicated by those balloons, and blue indicates commitments, and the purple ones are where we are still quite confident that we will be having extra launches here, but where a firm commitment is still missing. And what we can see is certainly around the rim of Antarctica, coastal Antarctica. I think we'll be having very good additional coverage during the year of polar prediction, during the summer campaign in the next summer season in Antarctica. A very recent development, I mean, I think we were aware of this, that there will be good contributions when it comes to radio sonde coverage that we were aware of. I mean, a recent development was certainly that the development of a strong buoy component has made a major progress. So there are very, very good deployment plans for 2018 at the beginning of the season in place. So we expect something like a total of 70 buoys being deployed by different partners here: Germany, Polarstern, South Africa. Will be contributing, Australia as well, and you see here in brackets, the numbers of buoys the different groups and countries will be deploying. So I think in principle we are quite confident that the SOP in Antarctica, that we also have quite a strong buoy component, and I think we are confident. I mean, some of the buoys would have been deployed with YOPP. That's for sure, but I think we will get some extra coverage because of the year of polar prediction. Then for your information, I mean, if you are out there and you are planning a campaign or some activity, we would like to point out that Certain Met services are willing to provide you with operational support, and you can find a list of these centers here. So they provide support for YOPP endorsed campaigns. There's, for example, Environment and Climate Change Canada, Finnish Meteorological Institute, NMEFC in China, Icelandic Meteorological Office, the NMI, Norwegian Met Service, the Russian Met Service, the Swedish, the British, NOAA, NWS as well, and the US GSCI's email service. So, I mean, they are willing to provide you with information, you know, if you are out there and want to contribute, you know, with specific campaigns to this. You know, that means, for example, getting forecast and products or other advice. So I've shown this already the last time round. I mean, we have published a few weeks ago the YOPP modeling plan. And perhaps, you know, I invite you to have a look into this, but I think I'm very confident that the modeling part of the polar prediction will be very strong. So, for example, ECMWF is already producing a high-resolution forecast data set, you know, where you get daily high-resolution data and you have some process tendencies archived. Will be archived, I think, after in the new year. At the moment, it's not yet, but they will fill the gaps, the early gaps later on. But also, for example, Environment and Climate Change Canada, and they will be putting online data from a 3-kilometer regional Arctic system that may actually be coupled with, will be coupled with a 1/12 of a degree sea ice ocean model. So I think, you know, that there will be contributions from Met Norway and from the French colleagues, that we think and very confident that we will be having a very strong modeling component. And there will also be, by the operational centers, there will be, you know, observing system experiments, that is, you know, running forecast. I mean, for all the operational forecasts, they will take all the extra observations that are made by YOPP, you know, in the context of YOPP. But then there will be extra so-called observing system experiments where the extra observations are being taken out, and then, you know, the impact of this is studied. And so one of the next steps is to make sure that, you know, the different centers, that these observing system experiments will be well coordinated. Now, I also mentioned last time round that there is a YOPP data portal, and certainly all the modeling data will be made available and may be made visible. Not necessarily, it's a portal, so they will be made visible through this YOPP data portal that is kindly hosted by Met Norway. I would like to mention, and this is new also, that here at the Alfred Wegener Institute, we decided to, you know, to put our archive called PANGAEA forward as one YOPP data hub. Okay, and so you can, when you upload your data in PANGAEA, if you decide to do so, you can flag the data as YOPP relevant, and then they will be visible through this YOPP data portal. Okay, there's further information on this available. Now, ideally, it would be very important to upload the data in NET, CDF, and CF. To my understanding, it's not a must, but it will be very important in principle, because this would allow, you know, the experts, the data experts, to convert the data into a format that can then be used by the numerical weather operational prediction community in a format called buffer, but I think we don't need to discuss here. So, I mean, this is one service, you know. I mean, if you have your favorite data center you work with, I would like to invite you, you know, to contact Øystein here, Godoy, here's the email address given, or us at the International Coordination Office for Polar Prediction, and, you know, we bring you together. But if you don't have a data center, or yours is not willing, but you would like to make your data visible through that data hub, data portal here, then we invite you to use PANGAEA. Okay, but there are other options as well. It's an offer here to the community. Very briefly, YOPP in the Southern Hemisphere. This is a photo actually taken from, you know, I think from the last day of the last workshop this year. And here you see different activities taking place, you know, from different partners here. And I think in principle, what you can see is what we have seen already on the previous slide, that we actually expect quite good coverage. Now I'm bringing this up for you to, you know, save dates. I mean, the next meeting for the planning of especially the special observing period, will be on the 19th of July 2018 in Madison, Wisconsin. And this YOPP meeting, one-day meeting, will be following this 13th workshop on Antarctic meteorology and climate. And I need to go back. And as I said, the main purpose of this one-day meeting will be the planning of this special observing period, which will be running from the 16th of November 2018 to mid of February 2019. And there will be more details to come. And if you have questions, contact our steering group member and lead organizer Dave Bromwich, or us at the International Coordination Office. And then I would like to make also some advertisement. As I mentioned in the mission statement, we are also quite interested in, what's the impact of improved forecasts in polar regions on mid-latitude scale, or more generally on, these sort of dynamical linkages between the two. And I would like to make advertisement for a special issue that just came out this week in Advances in Atmospheric Sciences, and it's entitled Impact of a Rapidly Changing Arctic on European Climate and Weather. And it also touches on the prediction part. For example, we have a paper in there where we describe results from a set of relaxation experiments in medium range forecasts. And there's a preface for this as well. So I'm inviting you to take a look. I guess some of those papers in this special issue could be of interest to you. Now, I also mentioned last time that, when it comes to our, dialogue we want to establish with stakeholders in the research community. So we established this online forum, Polar Prediction Matters, and there we have a new issue out here. So it's a report from, actually experience from two experts here, Jan Lisa and Thomas Remenier from the Australian Antarctic Climate and Ecosystems Cooperative Research Center, and they have very strong experience in doing research in the Antarctic and related to sea ice. And they share their experience and what they think is important, from a prediction perspective. And I'm not inviting you just to read it, but I think it's also very important, that it's an opportunity to establish a dialogue and to get into contact with Jan and Thomas. So I'm inviting you to read this and also the previous ones and engage in this online discussion. And I think the next one that we have lined up will be with, if I remember correctly, with Tero V. Raste. So I think that's certainly a page to bookmark and to follow closely in the coming weeks. And then a brief reminder, different ways of communicating. I guess most of you know them. That's a website. We have our Twitter account here. We have our regular newsletters. We are working on the next one, and we have various different planning documents, and they are all available from this Polar Prediction website. Okay, and then as all of you know, we have this mailing list with quite a few subscribers. So I think with this, as I said initially, I don't want to talk for too long, but I think that the main purpose is really to, also take your questions and your comments regarding the development of the year of polar prediction. And thus here with this overview here and the schematic, I'm closing for today and happy to take questions and comments.
Okay, thank you very much, Thomas, for this nice overview and update. So again, if you have a question, please either raise your hand and we unmute you, or you can put your question in the question box. Okay, no questions so far.
I think we had a slow start last time as well, so perhaps we can wait a little bit more.
There is one, David Atkinson. Yeah, so let me see. Yeah, hi David. You should be able to now. Yeah.
Hi, thanks very much, Thomas. That was a great overview. It was quite useful for me to hear all this assembled together. I just had I'm Dave Atkinson at University of Victoria. We're working on I'm part of two YOPP projects. One to analyze the boundary layer with a 30-meter tower that we'll be installing in partnership with the Government of the Northwest Territories in Saxe Harbor in the Canadian Arctic. And then another one, cloud physics project in Tuktoyaktuk. The boundary layer project is led by Adam Monahan here at UVic, and the microphysics project is led by Rachel Zhang at Dalhousie. I just had a quick question. You talked about buoys in the Eastern Arctic. I'm just wondering if you could define the Eastern Arctic a little more closely.
I mean, the Eastern Arctic in this context refers to the Russian part of the Arctic. I mean, because if you look at the buoy coverage in the Arctic, I mean, what we see is that we have quite good coverage sort of in the Western Arctic outside of the Russian waters and the Central Arctic, but it's different for the Russian side. So I think what will happen, and you know, what we are quite happy with, is that we get good buoy coverage in Russian waters, you know, especially during the summer special observing period, but we also expect some 2, 3, 4 buoys also during the winter SOP, and I think this will be a unique opportunity because, I mean, buoys in that region are usually not readily available. But I think what they take, you know, Helge and others can correct me, but it's not that there are sort of buoys that measure everything in the atmosphere, you know, sea ice and ocean. So, I mean, they take primarily information such as sea level pressure and temperature.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other question?
Okay, doesn't seem to be the case. Huh?
David again?
Oh, yeah, I guess you were very clear. Another question, I guess, just kind of thinking out loud. For observational campaigns such as ours, now the cloud microphysics, of course, is not sort of a real-time observation in the sense that models would not ingest that sort of information in a quasi-real-time, you know, a 4D assimilation format. But information from the Met Tower could potentially that could potentially happen. I'm just wondering, and I assume this is probably the case, and I apologize for not being familiar enough with more of the modeling projects, but I assume something like the 3-kilometer run would be run while the enhanced observing period is underway, but then presumably rerun after all of the additional observation sets are in place to more directly assess the benefit. You know, of course, these are leading to more process understanding that feeds into the model in a different way, but just the basic additional data uptake without changing any of the physics or parameterizations in the model. I wonder what that would look like.
Yes. I mean, it is like you say, you know, I mean, there will be a run. I mean, there will be a run, if I understand things correctly. For example, at Environment and Climate Change Canada, they take the high resolution system and it's run, you know, quasi-operationally. Okay. That means they pick up all the data that make it into the global telecommunication system. You know, they pick up everything. So, I mean, that's great. You know, we can see, look, produce forecast and so forth. But of course, you want to see, you know, given the effort we made in taking extra observations, you know, and for example, you putting your observations, you know, and that you take on the mast and putting them onto the GTS and, you know, being able to ingest them in the operational forecasting system. You want to evaluate what the impact of those is. And for this, you need a second set of experiments. I mean, there are some diagnostics which can tell you directly during the run, you know, but there are also some, you know, an observing system experiment would really mean running a parallel integration, you know, and then see what the impact is. And of course, but this would be, I guess, and this would be happening very closely after the stop of the finishing of the special observing periods. I guess a few months after, you know, the SOPs are finished, I think these runs will be produced, and you know, and the data will be generated. But I think there's the other aspect, as you mentioned. I mean, if it comes to observations, you know, like microphysics, that will lead to better process understanding, you know, and I think this is a different time scale. That's my guess. You know, I mean, first you take the measurement, and then you have to look at the data, and perhaps you write your publications, and you know, work then closely with modelers. So I think probably the process understanding, the impact on the models that this will have, will probably take much longer than, you know, the taking out additional data or not. I think there the knowledge generated will be rather quick. You know, if you see what I mean.
Sure.
But I think, you know, certainly, I think we will be learning from the process understanding, and I'm quite certain and confident that this will lead to, you know, in certain parts at least, to better models and better parameterizations. And you know, for example, the EU project, I'm coordinating a major EU project called Applicate, and we plan exactly this, you know, testing, you know, certain enhanced formulations and you know, running with the original formulations and then with the enhanced formulations, say, of boundary layer representation, what the impact is. But again, this is a bit longer time scale than perhaps the observing system experiments.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. David, any other questions? In the meantime, Thomas, I was wondering if you can say something about some upcoming meetings regarding YOPP.
Yes, but I guess you may know better than me these days. But I think we have a meeting in Tromsø, which is at the end of January. There will be the Arctic Circle, I think. There we will be having a session where we talk about science related to this. I think we are thinking of a town hall at the EGU, if I remember correctly. And I think we also plan an event at Polar 2018 in Davos. And these will also, especially the one at the EGU, but also at Davos 2018. I mean, this will really be the opportunity, you know, for us to meet if you are there, and to discuss and you know, engage in more detail. But I think these are the major ones coming up. At the moment, we are discussing, you know, when to bring the scientists for the Arctic together after this special observing periods. And we just had today a telecon on this, and so we are planning tentatively to, you know, to bring the scientists who work on in YOPP endorsed projects, to bring them together perhaps in January 2019 in something like a 3-day science workshop, you know, get the modelers, the observational, the field campaign people, the SOP people together and meet and discuss their experience and what they have generated for 3 days. But that's still tentative, it's in the planning. But I'm quite confident that this will be developing. So I think in summary, you know, lots of the meetings, there will be, you know, we will be piggybacking onto, you know, major conferences, what's there. I mean, either going into sessions or having town halls. But then the more dedicated science session for the Arctic is very likely to take place in the beginning of 2019. And of course, for the Southern Hemisphere, I mentioned this in my presentation, there will be the meeting in Madison, Wisconsin in early summer next year. So that's then also a dedicated activity to YOPP. I don't know whether I missed anything, Kirstin. I mean, if I, then please, you know, augment what I'm saying.
I'm just checking. So at the 5th ISAR, International Symposium on Arctic Research, we have a session on synergies for new Arctic climate prediction observation modeling with focus on YOPP and also MOSAiC. And these are main conveners are Yun Inoue, who is steering group member, and also others like Benjamin Rabe and colleagues. Yeah, so that these are mainly the.
I have been fairly complete. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Okay, so I'm just checking if there in the meantime some new questions. Seems not to be the case. So yeah, if there aren't any other questions, I mean, you can always send us a message via our email address, office@polarprediction.net. Otherwise, I guess we have another online conference soon, Thomas. Do you have any ideas when that will be?
Yeah, we will be informing the community. Of course, we need to have something substantially to to present, and there has to be some development. And in fact, the start of the first SOP actually is it's the 1st of February. It's well, a bit more than 6 weeks from today. But I mean, that's something we have to discuss also with the steering group. What are the major things that are upcoming? But I guess we will be having one. The question is before the SOP, the start of the SOP, or during this special observing period. That is something that remains to be seen.
Okay. So then I would say thank you very much for attending this. Thank you, Tom, for presenting. And yeah, we keep you informed. And yeah, you can always subscribe to our newsletter and mailing list if you want to get regular updates.
Okay. And yeah, Merry Christmas also from my side. Happy New Year. And perhaps to some of you, a happy SOP1, okay? In case we don't talk to each other anymore. So bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.